Hi guys. I just wanted to share some thoughts with you, some personal thoughts about myself, and also about the Epstein files and all of the collective situations that we're navigating right now. This is my equivalent of pulling you all up close around the fire and having a deep chat. First, I want to thank and acknowledge everyone who's taken time to chime in and share your thoughts, your concerns and views on this topic, and or those that have reached out to me personally. Even if I have spoken sharply or in opposition of your viewpoint, I value our discourse deeply. It matters. For those who know me personally and or who have gotten to know me virtually over many years, it's no secret that I have a deep affinity for spirituality. I'm a truth seeker. I seek self-knowing and understanding of my role and place in this world and how that fits in with everyone else. It's my labor of love, my obsession. Also, along with spirituality, I am very much an intellectual. I value knowledge, logic, systems, structure, and I've equally sought to understand the realms of psychology and sociology and all the ologies because the spiritual and the physical are inextricably intertwined, inseparable. Over the past 7 years now, since I began questioning my faith, examining my beliefs closely, and learning how to make peace with my emotional nature, how to be with them instead of avoiding them and swallowing them. This season of emotional alchemy, you could call it, has expanded me into my own self-knowing tremendously. I've always known that I was a sensitive, and I've learned much about this through systems like the Enneagram, astrology, and the Gene Keys, to name a few, about my specific blueprint for this life. But what most people don't know, and what I didn't really even know about myself until very recently, is that my sensitivity is something that I have very much been fighting against and believed it was something I needed to overcome in order to outgrow my suffering. So, for context, the Sophia Code has been an important part of my spiritual journey since about 2021. And I believe the words of wisdom from various ascended masters about the need for humanity to become sober to our addiction to suffering, and the clarion call to light workers to rise above the darkness and to co-create a new version of reality that is in sync and harmonious with Mother Earth and all of her inhabitants. These are the tenets of my spiritual beliefs. I've spoken about these more times than I can count. But over the past almost year now, my soul has been deeply challenging me in what it looks like to bring all that spiritual knowledge down and test it out in the fire of my everyday life, of my human experience. Because what cannot be embodied is simply just words. It's theology. It's abstract. It's a dangling carrot that often fuels even deeper suffering. Because we then believe, because we're not yet experiencing that higher reality, that we must be doing something wrong. And what my soul whispers to me is that it cannot expand further until I integrate what I've already mentally and emotionally processed as my truth. The body is the last aspect of self that has to be brought into alignment. So how does this relate to the Epstein files? Well, I'm getting there, I promise. I've shared openly about my childhood and some of my abuses and experiences with many of you. And I feel that I have fully explored these. I've done the therapy, I've written about it, I've brought self-awareness and acceptance and compassion to these aspects of myself, the inner child work. I've been doing that for a very long time. And I thought that doing so would liberate me from a lot of my emotional suffering. But it has not. In fact, if anything, my suffering has intensified. Now, I already understood that much of what I've been feeling over the past few years has been largely collective. But for the past 4 or so months, I've been experiencing some of the most intense suffering that I have ever experienced, with no real apparent cause. So recently, I was asking my oversoul some questions about my experience. And what came forward really helps me to begin to put it all into a new perspective. And hopefully we all kind of know by now that we are all energetic beings of consciousness having a physical experience. It's not the body that produces the soul. It's the other way around. We're all serving energetically in this life in different ways. And last summer, I had a very expansive experience where I began to download, parts of my oversoul, information about divine harmonics and such, which is closely tied to Robert Grant's work. My oversoul told me recently that my primary service in this life is as what's called a field mirror. So, just to understand my experience, I was like, well, what percentage of the population serve in this way? And it's about 0.1% of the population. What that means is that I and others like me, we feel on behalf of the collective, which includes ancestral echoes and planetary distortions. mostly around feeling the unclaimed shadows of humanity. And by breathing through these waves of emotional experience that come on and bringing presence and witness, we, others like me, help feel and release what others cannot yet name. And so I'm sort of a field architect, energetically, if you will. And I serve the collective by restructuring emotional fields. Now, what I realized in this new awareness is that I have not fully understood my own sensitivity, and I haven't valued my own energetic service. You know, I'm an Aquarius sun sign, but I have a lot of Capricorn in my chart. And the Capricorn energy is all about authority, ambition, achievement, effort, building legacies, challenging rules while integrating deep commitment and tradition. It's the archetype of the wise woman or elder. And my experience of this energy, specifically the shadow side, is that I have very much had this deep inner drive to build, achieve, reach a pinnacle of success, whatever that success is defined as. And so the shadow expression of this is power, control, domination, hierarchies. And so much of my life has been very much about being deeply entrenched in these systems of power, control, domination, hierarchy, through politics, religion, education. What I very much see now about my service is that it's my human's job it has been to deeply dive into all of these collective systems and entangle myself with them so that I could be intimately connected with the shadows of these systems. So I have a sensitivity to feeling the shadow, the darkness, so that I may witness through feeling and bring presence, breath, and light to these areas of collective consciousness that are still unclaimed. And like so many others, because my definitions for success for so long were defined by the patriarchy, external systems of success, largely devoid of connection with what is really truly most important, I was unconsciously driven to seek and follow these systems, to climb the ladders, to seek the external success that would validate my identity and my purpose. And in this, I have perceived myself as a failure to succeed over and over and over again. And that created a deep, despondent suffering within my heart that was almost unbearable, because we all are wired to deeply desire to do that which is in our blueprint, that which we came here to do. And instead of seeing my life and all that's taken place through the spiritual lens of my energetic contributions to the whole, I was judging myself deeply for the lack of tangible, physical manifestation of my hopes and dreams. And most of my time was then spent chasing the understanding that I thought that I needed to gain in order to put this right. I had talent, ambition, intelligence, powerful tenacity, and vision. And yet I would only allow myself to reach a certain threshold of success, and then I would self-sabotage. And then when I realized that pattern, it was the search to heal myself so I would no longer suffer from this inner sabotage. And yet it was all necessary. Not any of it was not a part of the plan. My soul wanted and needed to explore and entangle within all of these levels. And therein lies my success. But to the world, to most, even to myself, me, being in such a state of emotional overwhelm that most days all I could do was sit on the couch and cry and rage. Well, most perceive that as psychosis or instability or useless. That person's fucking useless. They're not contributing to society. And I told myself that without saying it out loud. Yet that is my deepest service. And it's worthy of honor, at the very least from myself to myself. But I've done so much healing, I told myself. But what's actually happening, the more numbness that I faced and felt and brought presence to and released in my own body, the more space opened up for my capacity to feel to be greatly expanded, and thus my service to be expanded. And what I can say is this, back to the topic of discussion, Epstein, all of this corruption. Yes, I've known and felt within myself for a long time, all the way back to when the Bushes were in office. I knew there was deep corruption going on. When the conspiracy theory of Pizzagate first came out with the Clintons, I felt the truth of it. But I was deeply disembodied at that time. I doubted myself. I doubted my own intuition. I was deeply entrenched in patriarchal, religious, Christian theology that told me I was a useless piece of shit, a sinner, and that my heart was intrinsically evil and my thoughts were right behind it. Right? Was very hijacked by that theology in myself. I convinced myself that those in places of authority would do the right thing and justice would prevail. I mean, after all, they've been telling us that in movies for so long. How many fucking movies are out there about the one rogue agent who defies the system to bring down the evil and corrupt? I mean, my God, Tom Cruise's entire career has been built on this archetype. We believe it. We need to believe it. And they want us to believe it. Because then we continue to opt out of our civic duty and abdicate our responsibility for personal sovereignty. And so it's working. Their plan is working. My sudden advocacy on this topic isn't that I'm just finding out or flipping out. It's that I've healed enough and reclaimed enough of my own feeling in my body to where now I actually can feel the weight of the entire collective storm around this. Doesn't mean I should hold on to it, and that is something I am working on. I have been working on for a long time. Doesn't make me better than anybody else. Doesn't make me higher. None of that. It's just my own service and me acknowledging the role I'm here to play. And I don't just feel the general collective's shock and dismay and disillusionment around these disclosures. And I don't just feel the victims' experiences, but I also feel the perpetrators. Believe it or not, their suffering is the most intense. That's a conversation for a different time. And I understand everyone's service is different. My situation is unique. Everyone is at their own place of where they are and what feels right to them and what their capacity is. And I honor and accept that. But now that I know I have the burden of responsibility, what am I going to do? What is mine to do? What are we going to do about it? Because what we have done collectively is to deny our own sexual nature so much that the world is bleeding with the systematic rape, torture, and killing of the innocent. What we have done in the past has been too uncomfortable to talk about this issue. We've been under Puritanism, the religious ideology that sexuality is evil, our shadow, our repression of sexuality, our divorce of sexuality and spirituality is what is evil. And what we've done in the past is to lean too heavily on systems that were built to protect us, but they were built on the extraction of labor and life force of the feminine. This is a feminine shadow issue. The issue of the demonization in religions of feminine sexuality, the power of our wombs and our blood, the power of our magnetism, and the fear of the masculine, who sought to manage that fear by seeking to control and consume the feminine rather than be in relationship and service to it. And the strategy of the perpetrators is to saturate and overwhelm us to the point where we doubt everything and feel nothing. The strategy is to shock and awe and promote fear and suspicion and keep us distracted enough to where we just keep on doing what we have been doing. I'm not here to tell you what your advocacy should be. I'm simply telling you about mine. I cannot be silent. I share and speak about it repetitively because I hope to shake others in their complacency, in their illusion, and to challenge any perspective that gives good faith to that which is lost all credibility. See, I understand the spiritual narrative that, we just need to be in light and love here, guys. We need to focus on our solutions and not the problems. And I generally agree, except my soul has said, no, Jen, that's not your role. This is your role. Are you going to fully surrender and feel the weight of this collective shadow until people can reclaim it for themselves? Except that there are still girls and boys and women in these systems. This isn't about one person, not Epstein, not Maxwell, not even Trump. What we can no longer afford to do is to look away from the truth that every facet of our society's leadership has been infiltrated. It is all corrupt. It is all complicit. Those who hold the highest power initiate others in their desire to hold power and either activate their innate appetites for these horrific things, or they set them up and blackmail them. It doesn't matter which. The proof is there, and who is willing to see it? Whose eyes are the eyes that will not look away from this injustice, that will not call evil good and good evil? They are counting on you to opt out. I meant what I said in previous posts about our nation resorting to violence. Should those in power refuse to take action? Because it disgusts me that we will cheer and celebrate our founding fathers, most of them who were also perpetrators of this type of violence, and that is a whole different conversation. Why did they fight? What was the Revolutionary War about? Our freedom over taxes, over fucking money. We will become that enraged over money, yet somehow the kidnapping, rape, torture, and sacrificing of millions of souls and bodies is not cause for equal action and response. I am here to speak as loudly as I can that these games they are playing, pitting Democrat against Republican, all the fawning, all the leaders that are coming out now who say, "Oh, I've just seen the Epstein files for the first time. Oh, it's so despicable." What a load of shit. I see you. You are not fooling me. These are games. These people in power already know what's going on. They already know the truth. They are complicit. And if they cannot bring those responsible to justice, they are co-conspirators. All the FBI agents and CIA agents and congressmen and women who have seen this material for a decade and not taken action, you are complicit. You are a co-conspirator. And all the business tycoons, the tech oligarchs, the movie and music stars and sports stars, and the system of regular folk, the doctors, the lawyers, the educators, the foster system, the fathers, the mothers, every single person who has personally participated in this complex web and or watched it and or turned the other way over money. Every single one needs to be burned to the ground. Take their positions, take their power, take their money, take it all. Strip them bare and throw away the key, or give unto them an end that is worthy of the justice we seek. Because our society will not survive this. There's no point in some imagined fairy tale, some point in history where we can turn the clock back to. There is no point back there where we were all free. And that is what Source, God, is doing. Everything that is in the way of this objective is going to be brought down. The only answer is how long we each will hold out trying to survive in a dying system. That's the only absolutely truthful question we can ask ourselves at this time. And I don't know what I'm going to do. All I know is I cannot look away anymore. I cannot remain silent. In the name of light, may we all raise our voices and shake the very foundations of this earth in recompense and demand full and complete justice.